After nearly 8 years of drug addiction, Michael De Leon spent 12 years in prison and halfway houses for a gang-related homicide. Since his time in prison, he's dedicated his life to making the world a better place. He is the founder of Steered Straight, which guides young people away from the dangers of drugs and criminal activity. As a motivational speaker, he has spent thousands of hours talking to millions of young adults, and he has worked tirelessly to help people suffering find the road to recovery.
The Road to Recovery is brought to you by Lake Haven Recovery. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Hello, my name is Michael De Leon, and this is The Road to Recovery. Tonight on the show, we sit down with Pastor Donnie Davis from Amazing Grace Community Church in Williamstown, New Jersey, talking about his journey on the road to recovery.
Lake Haven Recovery is the #1 choice for addiction treatment in Southern Florida, where recovery takes place in a beautiful tropical setting. Lake Haven Recovery Center is dedicated to helping every person who walks through the doors suffering from alcohol and drug addiction. Most major insurances are accepted. So call toll-free today for a confidential assessment, 866-850-4576 or lakehavenrecovery.com. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step at Lake Haven Recovery.
Welcome back to The Road to Recovery. Again, I'm Michael De Leon, and I'm sitting here with Donnie Davis. Pastor Donnie Davis, good friend of mine from Amazing Grace Community Church in Williamstown, New Jersey. Donnie, again, thank you so much for being with us today. And so, the road to recovery for many people, different paths, different journeys, and we wanted to bring you on and share your journey with your recovery.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about where it all began for you.
I think with addictions, one thing that's unique about addictions is it's not racist or biased. It doesn't matter what zip code you come from. It's the same door. We just walk in through different sides or entrances per se. But for me, I grew up in a good family. It wasn't dysfunctional in the sense that, what we may see in America today. My parents were both missionaries for a church. I grew up, as a Christian per se in a household that was taught values. But for me, in my experience, after the military and on the police department, the things that I went through, I couldn't find relief seeing the police department's psychiatrist. I couldn't find relief by talking to people. So for me, I began self-medicating, and that's where my road to addiction began. So.
In all your experience now, you're working with people and helping people.
Right.
Self-medication is a common theme?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know most people that don't self-medicate in some form or fashion. Whether it's alcohol, drugs, food, or whatever it may be, addictions come in many forms, but absolutely, we try to take care of ourselves,
So there's that saying in courts and the justice system that a man who represents himself has a fool for a client. I think maybe a man who medicates himself has a fool for a patient.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So self-medication didn't work.
No, years went on. Don't remember that many of those years, but I remember vividly looking in the mirror one night, and the man that I used to be, the man that, like I said, that grew up in a good home, the man that was in the military, the man that was a police officer, who was this person? I lost my complete identity. And so for that moment, that was my rock bottom moment where I said, I need to make a change. I don't know who I am anymore.
That's a pretty good path to be on. I mean, a good foundation, church, military, law enforcement.
Right.
But self-medicating yourself on drugs, obviously, when you start to begin drug use or self-medicate, you don't see where it's going to take you.
No, there's a saying in the church that sin will always take you further than you intended. And it's true. It's just, for me, that slippery slope, as the years went by, everything was gone. Like you said, drugs not only takes you where you don't want to go, but it strips you of your identity. It strips you of your self-worth, your value, and you're like the Walking Dead. You're just a zombie wandering through life.
And so you didn't even know who you were. You
Right.
didn't recognize yourself.
No.
You weren't the man that you grew up to be.
Correct.
And so that, as you said, is rock bottom?
Yes, sir.
And so what happened?
Honest truth. Okay, I didn't want to be a waste of my product, so I snorted what I had left and then drove back to New Jersey. And I remember knocking on the door of my mother's house and saying, I just need help. I was 26, 27 years old. I remember laying on the floor that night You know what I mean? Because I couldn't stay on the couch. I was sweating and couldn't stand still or lay still. But I remember laying on the floor because of the amount of cocaine I just did. Holding my chest and my heart. I could feel it almost like beating through my chest, my rib cage, and I thought, don't die on your mother's floor. This isn't the way to go. And then I just remember looking up at God saying, just give me one more chance. Almost like Samson, the story we read about. And I woke up the next morning, and that's when I said, you know what? My life is no longer mine. I need to change this.
And so you turned your complete life around.
Absolutely.
And that's where your bottom was, and your self-realization that this is not the person that you
Absolutely.
wanted to be.
Correct.
And you looked to a different direction.
Yep.
There was no outside intervention, outside of a spiritual intervention.
Right.
There was nobody came in and told you. There was no criminal justice element where you were getting arrested and you had to go to jail.
Correct.
I mean, this was, so in all your experience helping people now, how many people do you see that really have that kind of light bulb moment maybe, or wake up moment? Or
for me, in my now 15 years being sober and working with people, the Bible says that the grace that we've been given in those situations we're to show to others. So for me now, working with addicts, it's easy. I mean, it's we can look in each other's eyes. In the military, you may call it the 1,000-yard stare. You know when you're sitting with someone and they're not BSing you. You know when it's for real. But you also know when that person is at rock bottom, and there is no help, no matter how good it is, until that person says, and then they had that same experience where they look in the mirror and say, I need to change. Not that I need this.
Well, that's a very controversial point in recovery and addiction right now. Does the person have to want the help, be willing to get the help in order for the help to work? And we'll talk more about that right after this break.
It's time to get help. At Recovery Unplugged, you can get the tools you need for a fulfilling, sober life free from drug and alcohol addiction. Our luxury resort-style facility has the accommodations to make change comfortable. Recovery Unplugged's nationally accredited program combines the most successful addiction therapy with a cutting-edge approach, using music as a catalyst for change. At Recovery Unplugged, music makes the difference.
Lake Haven Recovery is the #1 choice for addiction treatment in Southern Florida, where recovery takes place in a beautiful tropical setting. Lake Haven Recovery Center is dedicated to helping every person who walks through the doors suffering from alcohol and drug addiction. Most major insurances are accepted. So call toll-free today for a confidential assessment, 866-850-4576 or lakehavenrecovery.com. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step at Lake Haven Recovery.
Welcome back to the Road to Recovery. Today's guest, Donnie Davis, pastor. Donnie Davis, we're sitting here talking about his road, his journey to recovery. From a distinguished military career and a distinguished career in law enforcement, self-medicating on drugs is never a good idea, but it brought you some experience. Going back, some of your experiences in the military are quite impressive, right?
It's a very unique and a very special unit. It was called the United States Air Force Presidential Honor Guard. Some of our details were welcoming ceremonies for foreign dignitaries, whether it be escorting the First Lady at the Tomb of the Soldier for laying wreath ceremonies, opening doors, and so on. It was, very distinguished in career.
So it was exciting.
Absolutely.
And definitely something that many people in the military strive for.
Right.
Something gets a lot of coverage and press, and then moving into a life of addiction that takes you over, and you don't even know who you've become.
Right.
So you found yourself in a situation where the bell went off, the light went off, and you decided that you needed to get some help.
Correct. More like the hammer dropped.
The hammer dropped. And so lying on the floor of your mother's house, you decided you needed help. And how was that? Was that help easy to find? Was it, hard?
For me, that's when it goes back to, do you really want it? For my example, and just in my life, and not saying it's the norm or how it should be done, for me, I didn't have any outside help like you were saying. It was just, I knew that I no longer wanted to be in this place ever again. Not just now, but ever again. So again, for me, it began with my relationship with God. And then he started telling me who I am in him, where my self-identity comes. And the second was the first time I really prayed to God for a woman. I know it sounds crazy, but other girls you date, especially when you're in the party scene, they do nothing but help bring you down. So the day I prayed, I said, God, I need to meet a Christian woman who's never done drugs, never smoked, never drank before, ever. And I met my wife about an hour and a half later.
Wow.
And that was my pickup line. I said, hey, did you ever do drugs before? She looked at me crazy, and I said, well, okay, my name's Donnie then. And that's so, because I knew where I was at, and I couldn't have any influences. I had to have that, that peace and pure environment.
Right. That, as I mentioned earlier, it's a controversial thing. People say the person has to be willing to help, to get the help, be willing to turn their life around, want the help in order to receive the help. And then some people say that's not totally true. In my case, I didn't want the help. I was forced into it through prison. And it was either get the help to, reduce my sentence or not get the help. But something happened along the way. And so I and my wife have placed quite a few people into treatment over the last 4 years, hundreds. And most relapse. I think the success rate across the country is 5 to 10% of people who go get treatment move on to lead a productive life. But in all your experience working with people, does someone need to want it in order to receive it?
In my experience, we're seeing a very high success rate when, number one, when I meet with someone one-on-one, again, you can look in their eyes and when they're at rock bottom. When that person's at rock bottom and they say, yeah, I want the help, and not even want it, I need it, I can't live without this, and I can no longer go on the way I am, we're seeing a huge success rate. The model, I mentioned before, we used to have Celebrate Recovery at our church one night a week. But the model that we've seen now that's really impacting the local communities, because again, there's a friend of mine who's a recovering addict, been clean for a year now. But when you look at his life, when he got busted, went to jail, went to a rehab place, and came back out, in the meantime, his wife and children, they've lost everything financially, they lost their house. So it's not even helping one addict or one person, it's helping the entire family unit. And for us, the example that I found that worked best for me and that we're using now, we're put into place, is the same example that, when Jesus called his first disciples, he said, follow me. The example, all the responsibility was put on Jesus, not on the disciples. Their job was to follow what was modeled to them. And for us, we, with our house churches and just reaching out to the local community, that's what we've done. We adopt families one-on-one, or we eat dinner with these people. We hang out with them. We go to the kids' games together. We live life on life, showing them, encouraging them, because that's where true discipleship and true mentorship really happens. There's real accountability, and we're able to impact the entire family unit and see great success.
And addiction is not affecting the one person.
Absolutely
It's affecting the entire family. Right. This is a family disease, so obviously it takes a family approach.
Yeah.
And so addiction treatment for the family.
One of the testimonies that the gentleman shared, he said, I remember when he came back from rehab, he said that his children used to sing at night or cry at night, where's daddy, where's daddy? He said now after a year, his kids are singing, worship songs. I love my Jesus. So it's the changes, in fact, like you said, the entire family is affected, but the change also is affecting the entire family. Marriages are restored, kids are healthy, and it's a right family union.
And families are affected in a positive way.
Absolutely.
If the person suffering from substance use disorder, addiction gets help and treatment, the family gets help and treatment, the family unit as a whole benefits.
Absolutely.
But I think beyond that, the entire community benefits.
I have a family member that's been in jail, I think 3 times now, and just got out, I think last month. What we're seeing a trend here in South Jersey, there are no resources, there are no, we would say, beds that are open right now. So the only way to get clean is by getting high, breaking a crime, and going to jail, spending 3-4 months in jail, getting clean, coming out. But now you have a record. Now you have no self-esteem. It's only a matter of time before you fall back down in that same ditch again. So that's the mold we're trying to break, like you said, and that is how it impacts the community. If we can bring people together to live alongside each other, to pour into one another, like I said, living life on life, now we're finding employments for husbands and wives. The kids are good in school. They're not the kids that are in detention any longer. So we're seeing even just the entire community is changed by this model that we're following.
And the community benefits. And right now in South Jersey and across our region, many communities are affected, devastated by drug addiction. And we'll talk more about that right after this.
Lake Haven Recovery is the #1 choice for addiction treatment in Southern Florida, where recovery takes place in a beautiful tropical setting. Lake Haven Recovery Center is dedicated to helping every person who walks through the doors suffering from alcohol and drug addiction. Most major insurances are accepted. So call toll-free today for a confidential assessment, 866-850-4576 or lakehavenrecovery.com. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step at Lake Haven Recovery.
Welcome back to the Road to Recovery. Pastor Donnie Davis, good friend of mine, and talking about South Jersey, how communities are affected across our region. I mean, you're in Williamstown right now.
Yes, sir.
So Williamstown, Gloucester County, the numbers aren't good.
We just read in NewJersey.com, I believe that in Williamstown itself is 25% higher, or 25 times higher than the national average rate, just with heroin addiction. And for me personally, over the last several years, the amount of funerals that I'm doing for, whether it's kids I've counseled in school, for kids that have gone to school, my younger brothers, it's young adults now, and it's sad. It's you don't want to look into a parent's eyes anymore and say, I'm sorry for your loss. We need to make a change now.
So in the last 2 years, as a pastor, how many funerals for addiction have you done?
Over a dozen. And again, it's one thing when it's an elderly person when you're doing the funeral and you can say, man, this gentleman or this lady lived a wonderful life and accomplished these things. But when that person's a young female at 18 years old who's dying in Camden because of an overdose, how do you look into the parents' eyes? It's heartbreaking, and we need to stop that.
It's terrible. I've been to 120 funerals in 4 years. Wednesday will be my 121st funeral. Giving the eulogy. I think it's the 20th time I'm talking or giving a eulogy at a funeral, and they're mostly 18 to 28, 18 to 30 young kids who are addicted and dying of heroin or benzodiazepines and alcohol. It's horrible. And so South Jersey, Cumberland County, Gloucester, Salem, Burlington, and then the shore communities of New Jersey, and obviously Philadelphia, the whole Kensington area, we're being devastated by heroin and addiction. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree 100%. It's an epidemic that we have never seen before in this area, never.
A lot of people look at me, call me an alarmist. I don't believe the problem is going to get any better for the next 3 to 4 years. I'm using the year 2020 to describe what I feel is the subsiding curve.
Right.
Do you see it getting any better anytime soon?
No, I think that we need to reevaluate what we've been doing over the years. Nothing against certain programs that may be in schools or certain programs that are offered by states or governments, but what we have in place does not work. And it would be just obscene to keep going on and on doing the same thing. I think Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and that is where we're at. So we do need to make a change.
And so a change needs to be systemic, right?
Absolutely. It's got to be what we call counterculture.
Many times I'm talking about what really worked at the end for me, and that was the redeeming and restorative power of Jesus Christ. And I don't know why sometimes he just gets in the way of things. People want to be so upset about faith, having faith be part of the solution.
You can't make money on faith.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Jesus said, freely it's been given, so freely give. And that's even our mentality, is everything that we do within our community groups, within our church, everything is always free.
Right.
So
that's amazing. I don't, want to push, people say it's a spiritual program, not a religious program. Right. Fine. The term higher power is something that's used quite a lot. I have a movie coming out named Higher Power. My higher power is Jesus Christ. Some people say their higher power is the ocean. Higher power is Mother Nature. Higher power is other gods. If that higher power keeps you sober and keeps you in recovery, more power to you. It's just, for me, there's a lot more that comes after my recovery. It's called eternal life. But what are you seeing with the people that you're working with and how faith can make a difference?
I think every person, again, regardless of your economic background, your status, or what family you've been born to, every person is looking for two things, and that would be affirmation, and number one. And and where we are just loved by, and whether it's mom and dad or whatever we were missing. And again, like I said, for me, when I found out that there's a Heavenly Father that loves me, regardless of the mistakes I've made or the mistakes that I'm going to continue to make, that I've got that affirmation and that love, there's nothing stronger. That's what keeps me going on. Because we stumble. We're going to fall.
For many people, there is a path to recovery through Jesus Christ. For many people that I have met, that you have met, they have found their recovery through Jesus Christ, through a spiritual relationship with God. That's a journey that's beyond your wildest dreams. That's my opinion. And we'll be back right after this.
It's time to get help. At Recovery Unplugged, you can get the tools you need for a fulfilling, sober life free from drug and alcohol addiction. Our luxury resort-style facility has the accommodations to make change comfortable. Recovery Unplugged's nationally accredited program combines the most successful addiction therapy with a cutting-edge approach, using music as a catalyst for change. At Recovery Unplugged, music makes the difference.
Lake Haven Recovery is the #1 choice for addiction treatment in Southern Florida, where recovery takes place in a beautiful tropical setting. Lake Haven Recovery Center is dedicated to helping every person who walks through the doors suffering from alcohol and drug addiction. Most major insurances are accepted, so call toll-free today for a confidential assessment, 866-850-4576 or lakehavenrecovery.com. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step at Lake Haven Recovery.
Back again with Pastor Donnie Davis on the road to recovery, talking about his journey and now the journey through faith that he's been able to help so many people along the way. In Williamstown, New Jersey, in Gloucester County, a county that's definitely feeling the brunt of the heroin epidemic, the opiate and heroin epidemic in our country. And so now you have a big project now that you're working on. So tell us about that.
Miracles after miracles. For several years, we've been praying over a parcel of land or a property. And just in the last week, we spoke with the owners where they've dropped the price 2/3 dramatically. We met with the county and they're assisting us with even taxes. But we're looking at, it used to be an old Christian campground called the Village Dock Campground in Franklinville. It's 277 acres with a 65-acre lake on it as well. Our goal and our desire, Lord willing, there's several houses on there already where we can take in heads of house, so men or women, either one, provide plenty of beds for people where they would stay for a year for free. And on that time, or during that time, we'll help them, through God, with His help, build up their self-esteem, find their self-worth again, let them learn who their identity is in God. At the same time, teaching them skills, trains, resume building, education. So after a year of living on this property and working with us, together, again, living life on life, we'll be able to send them back out so they can, again, be the heads of household or be those people in their family and change the community.
And so you're not only going to address their addiction,
right,
but you're going to address life skills,
absolutely,
vocational skills,
correct,
family dynamic, Christian-based program, living, residential, and they will be delivered maybe from their addiction.
Absolutely, yes, sir. And then go and help someone else do the same thing.
So this is a 277 acre
yes,
complex in Franklinville, New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, we need to pray about it. We need our viewers to keep that in
yes,
their
sir,
prayers, because that'll change not only individuals, it'll change families, it'll change an entire community.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And so what's your plans on getting that open?
We actually go under contract, Lord willing, the end of this month, and as soon as we can get the financing in place, the doors are open. Like I said, because we want to offer this free to the community. And
your eventual plans are to expand it and build it out?
Yeah, yes. Micro-housing was a word that we've been hearing a lot. Where again, God's given us so much property. Let's just use it all for Him.
And so there is a weakness in lacking in South Jersey
yes,
and New Jersey in and of itself for treatment, for real treatment,
right,
for real in-depth and long-term treatment. And a year is long-term.
Yes, sir.
So many times today in America, our treatment doesn't work. The number that's thrown around is between 5 and 7, 5 and 10% success rate after a 28-day program. This is something that's going to be more in-depth, long-term, a one-year program that's not only going to address the person suffering from addiction, but maybe the entire family.
Absolutely.
And some of those families probably homeless.
Yes.
So we ask our viewers to keep this in their prayers and their thoughts, keep Pastor Donnie Davis in your thoughts and prayers. And again, this is your journey, your path, your road to recovery. And we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. My name is Michael De Leon, and this has been The Road to Recovery.